Hello, my friends. Thank you so much for coming back to join me, Danielle with Inkworthy. And we are going to talk about a tool, if you will, or a strategy that is really underrated and underused. And I think it's so smart depending on how you use it, but it's something that you should consider. It's easy, but it's also fun and it gets people involved. It gives them something of value that they don't get other places. So, or many other places, I should say. But what is this tool? Essentially, it's just a list of books, right? I love lists of books categorized by different things because sometimes you find something you love and you want more of it. So basically, what you're going to give the readers is this list of books that your book is on. Okay, there's the secret. And, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but you're essentially just going to make a list of books that your book is on, and it could be for many different categories, angles, or sub genres, or whatever you want to call it. But you can do this on a site called Goodreads. You've heard of that. We did a video on that a little while ago. Goodreads, or you can put this on your blog. You can put it, you can even make the list on social media if you really wanted to. I have a client who put together a list of, she wrote her memoir on surviving sexual abuse or sexual assault. And she put together a list of other books, other supportive books that will help people who are looking for support in that area. And I thought the way she did it was so smart because she's trying to include other authors, and really the main goal is to provide value to your readers. Of course, you're also promoting your own book, but in that same vein, what you're really doing is saying, hey, readers, my readers, this is how I can help you. My book is included in the list because it's for sure helpful, but there are other books out there that are helpful as well. This also works in the reverse. Like if someone knows they read book number 3 on your list and they really loved it, and they see your book on the list, they may also be interested in picking that up. So whether or not they've read any of these books on the list, you're just providing this tool of this nice supportive piece of value to your readers. This can be one of those really easy, quick, enjoyable things that you can do that you're not necessarily having to focus on your book and yourself, right? You're not talking about your particular perspective throughout this piece of writing. You're really focused on your readers and what you can give to them. So think of it like trying to break down the particular subtopics or subgenres, if you will. For example, if your book involves divorce, surviving after divorce is my go-to example. Maybe it's 20 books on how to survive after divorce, or it's 20 books on how to pick your life up after a traumatic event or something like that, right? Like think of how your book fits into a particular category and then look for books that support that category. Another way to look at it is, 15 books to help you survive midlife, right? Or whatever. 15 books to help you connect with your partner, and maybe your book is a love story. 25 books on traveling the world, travel memoirs, how to explore, how to find adventure in your life, whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be a particular number of books, 10, 15, 20. I mean, you don't necessarily need to go find 100. It should probably be more than like 5 or 6. I mean, maybe that's a decent minimum. But you want to, the more the better in here, but you don't want to go overboard. And here's a couple rules to live by. You don't necessarily want to list your book first. That's a little too suspicious and a little too spammy in the promotional category. your book is part of the conversation. So maybe you do the first couple most popular books and then list your book third, or list your book maybe towards the middle of the list. Don't list it last. You don't need to be last on the list here. You could simply do alphabetical, whatever you want. But if you're looking to garner some attention and there's a couple really well-known books in that category that you're going to list, then you may want to put them first. So people are like, oh, I know this book. We're going to check out what's similar to that book. That's kind of how our minds work. That's how my mind works. If I like a book, I want to see what else is out there that might be similar in ways that I will like them too. So include your own book, of course. You should include a description of each book. This isn't necessarily just like a list of titles with like a little intro. So include a description for each book. If you've personally read them, you can provide your thoughts on the book, if you will. But otherwise, just a kind of a neutral, objective description on what the book is about, aka like their Amazon description type of thing. Put your own spin on it. Try not to copy a word for word from their Amazon description, but something like that. If you haven't read the book, that's okay. You don't have to come up with something new to say. And then if you really are having a hard time, getting some, not sounding spammy or like your Amazon description, you could have a friend or some other person, perhaps an editor that you've worked with, write a little blurb about your book for this. You can write, maybe include a reader review or something to that effect. So see what feels right. But this list, it needs to be supportive for your readers so that they are like, hey, I'm looking for some information. This can provide me with some of that information. And, it's not just a list of books with some links, right? So what books to include? Are you wondering whether or not you should include some of your comp titles? Like if you've done some market analysis, the answer is potentially yes. So you don't want necessarily to think of this as a competition or a list that makes your book look a certain way. You're not going to pick a bunch of super well-known books that have done extremely well, and then yours is the only unknown book. But at the same time, you're not going to pick a bunch of really low-performing books and your book somehow stands out above the crowd for obvious but a little curious reasons, right? So you want to pick books that are similar to yours in terms of that content piece that you're going for, the angle, genre, that type of thing. I would really stick to trying to find a couple well-known names, and then I personally always like to support self-published authors. So I'm probably, for a list that would include a book of mine, I probably wouldn't necessarily list all traditionally published books if mine was self-published. So try to have a mix there if you can. You're not going for books that are necessarily opposite of yours. For example, if you have some particular viewpoints that are expressed in your book, you're not necessarily going to need to provide the opposing viewpoints in other books if that's not the support that you're trying to provide to your readers. So they can be very similar, and that's okay, because what you're doing is saying, here is a curated list of books on this particular category that are going to support you in one way or another. For that specific reason that category is kind of bringing to light. So I just wanted to share that tip for you to see if you can get your wheels spinning and gather some lists of amazingly helpful books for your readers. If you do put a list out, please share it with me. Share it in the group because I love to support my writers, my group, but I also love book lists. I think they're just so fun. I love finding books that are like books that I love, right? So let me know what you think, and we'll keep talking. I have one more video for you on book promotion services, so please come back to check that out.